Hi, yes, and welcome to the next lesson in our distance learning unit on health. This week we're going to be learning about the Industrial Revolution. Our big question is, how did health improve during the Industrial Revolution? And we're going to examine the impact of some new ideas and inventions during the 1800s. So, you'll actually have a choice in today's lesson. The easy path, and I don't say that lightly, this is for if you're aiming for ME, you just want to focus on the key learning for today's lesson, especially with the shortened timetable. You should be able to describe the poor health conditions and explain at least one reason why health conditions improved during this period. When you do the assignment today via the quizzes, make sure you select the easy option. If you're looking for a little bit more challenge, you could choose the medium option. So that's not only the above, but also being able to say, well, what was this Industrial Revolution? And explaining a number of reasons why health improved, not just one. If you're looking for something a bit harder, a bit more challenge, and you think you're up to it within the time requirements of the lesson, then choose hard when you do the Microsoft quiz, because we expect you to do it all. Tell me what the Industrial Revolution was, why were health conditions so bad, how did they improve, but also examine the legacy of one key scientist during this period. Whenever you choose your option at the start, make sure you make the same choice later in the quiz as well. So here's a starter question for you. What health problems can you see in this cartoon from industrial Britain? Pause the video now, have a think, and then come back when you're ready with your ideas. So hopefully you could see some of these different features here. Starting from the top right, we've actually got a coffin going through the streets, which was obviously an easy way of spreading disease. We've got children playing in the rubbish down at the bottom. We've got children not being clothed very well, and we've even got people picking things out of the rubbish. All of these things were a sign of poverty, and they were all true of Britain in the middle of the 1800s. These large towns and cities are growing very quickly, and they were unequipped for dealing with such large populations, and as a result, people did whatever they could in order to get by. As a result, the health conditions were terrible. The big idea for today's lesson goes like this. During the Industrial Revolution in Britain, there was a huge amount of change. One of the big changes is that people started to move into towns and cities in large numbers. We live in industrialized countries today. It led to a lot of pollution and it led to lots of health problems. That also meant that as time went on later, there were attempts to actually improve health conditions. And this is what you're going to be learning about, those two things, the red and the blue. So what do you think had the biggest impact on people's health during the Industrial Revolution? That will be our big learning question at the end of the quiz. I'll be really interested in what you think. Keywords for today's lesson include Industrial Revolution. This is the transformation of a country from one that is primarily based on farming to towns and cities with large factories and mass machine-led production. Overcrowding was a common problem. This is where you get lots of people living or working in one small area. So for example, it wasn't unnormal to see 10 to 12 people living in one-roomed apartments. Pollution was a major problem, and we're not just thinking about factory smoke, as you can see in the first image. Even the water supplies were being polluted at this period. Cholera was a waterborne disease, and it was one of the biggest killers at this time. People didn't really understand why they were getting ill when they were drinking dirty water, but eventually they did realise that they needed to find a fresh water supply. Vaccines were introduced during this period. One of the first was Edward Jenner's. You'll find out about that. Antiseptics were also introduced in this period as people started to realise that even just keeping surfaces clean to kill germs, even if they didn't know what germs were, would actually make a big difference. The discovery of germs will be something that was discovered a bit later in the period, because you're going to learn about some scientists, including one very famous one indeed. So what do you need to do in today's lesson? You need to complete the quiz. That's it. You will have to choose the level that you are going to work at, easy, medium or difficult, and that loosely equates to ME or ME plus and EE and above for your target grade. You will also need the PDF. I'll attach that to the Microsoft Teams chat, but it's also in the assignment. And lastly, if you choose the hard, there will be an extension task based on this very famous scientist as well. Good luck.